For whatever reason, this topic in particular is so near and dear and passionate to me. I obsess probably too much, admittedly, about health and wellness, or not even health and wellness, just making sure that my kids are eating good food. Just good food. At the end of the day, I am trying to set my kids up for success in ways that I hope will translate to lifelong of just healthy eating habits. And today's show, we're doing things a little different because the show may have felt a little polished, or not polished, a little academic, or a little held back. And today, Oli and I finally break through in a way that I don't think we have on this show, where we just honestly talk from the heart on what we're dealing with, what we're trying to do. We push back a lot. We don't flat out argue. Well, we do. We disagree completely with each other on a few of the things, as you're about to see. But at the end of the day, this show was really helpful for me because it made me question a few things that I didn't realize I was doing. It's helped me, at least think through a couple different ways that I can approach this topic. So I hope you enjoy the show. This is the new format that Oli and I are going to try to replicate as we move forward in the show, is just being us. This is how we think about things. We're not experts. We're not doctors. We're not anything. We're just two dads, husbands, entrepreneurs, just like the show's called, trying to do the best we can. So please, would love your feedback on this. What worked? What didn't work? What did you learn? What did you hate? Where am I so completely wrong and Oli's so completely right? What other questions do you have listening to this episode that you think we should tackle in future episodes? We'd love to hear from you guys. Submit a comment, drop us a review, whichever way that you feel most comfortable reaching out. But at the end of the day, please be a part of this community. We're doing this to rise and lift everybody up. We're doing this to make being a dad a little less scary, a little less unknown, a little less, in the dark, so to speak. So enjoy the show. And with that, take it away, guys.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the D.H.E. podcast. We are excited to talk with you about some fun stuff today. I am Oli Hovde.
And Matt Adelman with you guys here today. We're going to try a little different format today. We're in double-digit episodes here, and it kind of hit us the other day. Maybe we just talk and be us and just point fun, poke fun, be real. We have been a little bit, but really tackle some issues through the lens of what is it really like being a dad in 2023, raising kids, and just call out the bullshit and help where we can. That's the goal, right?
Matt, I love it. And I think, people that are watching this on YouTube probably can't actually read this quote, but it's the man in the arena quote.
And it's backwards and shiny and impossible to see.
I read it all the time, but just to start, it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or whether the doer of deeds could have done them better. And it goes on and on. It's a great quote. But it's the essence of being a dad, a husband, an entrepreneur. You can sit back and you can criticize other people, or you can just shut up and go live your life and let everybody else kind of enjoy their life too. So we're not here to criticize people. I mean, sure, I do like to criticize, human nature, but we're just going to be ourselves, and we're just going to throw it out there how we do things. You don't like it? That's okay. You love it? That's great. Share it. But this podcast is just, I think we're going to have a transition to just being completely real, not trying to be, good afternoon, this is Oli Hovde with the D.H.E. podcast.
Never do that again. That's creepy.
There's a great book I read, and it was like the FM radio DJ voice. It was a negotiation book by a former FBI guy, and he called it like the late night DJ voice.
And that's what it sounds like?
Yeah, he talked about like the different tactics for negotiating. Anyway, we're not going to go there. We're going to go down this wonderful world of what, Matt? What are we talking about?
Well, it hit me yesterday. I was watching my kids eat again, right? I've got a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. You've got 3 kids. What are their ages again?
6, 4, and 1.5.
So we've got kids under the age of 10. Whether or not you want to admit this, parents, dads, whoever's listening to this, it is your responsibility to be teaching these kids how to fucking eat.
Yeah.
It just is. And again, I'm not here to throw stones. I have, what is it? Live in a glass house, don't throw stones, or whatever that, I'm totally butchering it. But here's the reality, man. The majority of people in this country don't give enough of a shit about what their kids actually eat. And you're setting your kids up for utter failure down the road when it comes to health and nutrition. It's the reality of America and in the time that we live in right now. It drives me fucking nuts.
So, Matt, you obviously know I had a meeting with a registered dietitian this morning. I thought the funniest thing, she goes, what did she tell me about my smoothies? I wish these were in schools.
Oh, did she say that?
And I'm sitting here going, you can just buy them and give them to your kids, like not have to have the school system
such
give
the
these.
Default.
Yeah, so like, right? And she's talking about all the food that's in school and how bad it is. And I think it's true. Like you know this, we send our kids to a private school because of the COVID ordeal. I am blown away. My daughter loves when I come to school. And I go to school for one meal typically. What is it, Matt? Do you know what it is?
Mac and cheese?
No, French toast sticks.
Oh.
Like brings me back to my childhood.
Yeah.
So like this super healthy meal. But the amazing part is, and I think I've done 2 meals with my daughter, 3 different meals with her. Every single meal, you know what it has with it? A piece of fresh, like a true piece of fresh fruit.
Yeah.
And a fresh vegetable. And I was like, man, I remember sitting down. This was last year, and I'm at this little tiny table. I feel like Elf. I sit down, I got my tray and my hot dog, and I'm like super sick, which, by the way, is a really good hot dog. And there's broccoli on my plate. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to eat that shit. And I was like, what kind of shitty-ass example am I setting for the kids at this table? I don't eat my broccoli.
Yeah.
So I picked up my broccoli, and I ate it. And I was like, they put one piece of broccoli on every kid's plate, even my plate. Holy shit, that's good broccoli.
What they do different?
They actually cooked it. It wasn't like the steamed stuff we grew up with where it's just like soggy, right? You can like...
Yeah.
It was really good. And so my daughter saw me do it, and she ate it. And then the other kids at the table were chanting like, oh, are you going to eat your broccoli? And like a lot of what our kids do, it's led by what they see us do, which is why I reserve my binge eating cereal until 9 p.m. so my kids can't see it.
So my wife and I had a discussion about this last week, completely separate topic, but it revolved around something you just said. Kids pick up on what we do. Whether or not we realize it or not, they do. So you're spot on. If you want the kids to eat broccoli, you got to eat broccoli. If you want the kids to not want McDonald's every day, then stop buying McDonald's every day. You want the kids to not drink soda, stop drinking soda, right? And so the point of this episode is going to be, yes, we're going to bitch a little bit about the way things are, but like let's really talk about ways that you can be better at this, at helping your kids eat better, do better, just this whole health and nutrition, and when it comes to eating, like let's break some myths here.
A really interesting place to start is I don't think I actually ate spinach in quantity until I was like 24 years old. Okay?
Yeah.
We didn't grow up. I mean, my parents are amazing. I love them to death. You'll hear me say that. I would do anything for them. But their version of a salad growing up was a head of iceberg lettuce, chopped up, some croutons and some dressing, right? Not real. I mean, it's better than nothing. Not a lot of nutrients. We didn't
With
grow
a
up
bunch
eating
of cheddar cheese.
What's
like
up?
Shredded cheddar cheese.
Oh, yeah. And maybe even some Velveeta if you were really lucky.
That's nasty.
Which I still want. We could talk for days about Velveeta market share. I'm really curious. But here's the deal. We just didn't grow up eating spinach salads. And I'll never forget, I was at a restaurant, and they had a pasta bar. And there was a mom in front of me with a kid. And the chef said, do you want me to add vegetables? And the kid's like, no. And the mom kind of nodded her head. And the chef looked at the kid, goes, I'm going to put a handful of spinach in your pasta. If you can taste it, you let me know. I'll make you anything you want. This kid's probably like 6, 7 years old. I'm intrigued. I'm like, man, this little kid just outschooled me. Like I'm getting like the Alfredo sauce, and like this is just kind of at my peak of weight. And I look at this kid, he's sitting down and he's eating it. And the mom, like you see the mom, like, hey, can you taste it? He's like, so I go back, I'm like, hey, would you make the same pasta you made that little kid? But it changed my life because what it did was I took like something basic, right? Spinach, and incorporated it into a pasta dish. When you cook it down and it cooks down, right? Like it's not overpowering. It's not bad. And that was one little hack that we now do with our kids of like, we try and incorporate things like that into their food that, you know, maybe they know is in there, but they know isn't going to taste funky.
Well, and here's, I'd take it a step further. I love that idea. I mean, it's the easiest way to get your kids to eat some better stuff. Do you do it with the kids? Like, do you have them come over and do you show them, hey, here's what we're having for dinner tonight, and we're going to add some spinach, but we're going to do it this way because it wilts a little bit, it shrinks down, but it's still there. Like, do you have those discussions with the kids, or you just throw it on the table and say, eat this?
We are very unique. Our kids are very active in the kitchen. Our 6-year-old now uses real knives. We've taught her how to use a real, like my
9-year-old is afraid to actually touch a real knife.
Yeah,
like,
you
he
told me
shakes.
You know what? We'll have your family over, and give me 5 minutes. I'll teach them how to work that knife. Which, by the way, if you're listening and you don't know how to use knives, like, and it sounds dumb, go spend an hour on YouTube watching chefs actually show you how to chop and hold knives. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, I can dice an onion in less than a minute now and make it look great, and I have to spend
Without
35
crying.
minutes. I still cry. I'm a baby though. But yes, so to answer your question, yes, we engage our kids in the kitchen. My kids love to be in the kitchen. They love to help. My son, who's 4, I mean, it's amazing. Like every time I'm doing something in the kitchen, he pushes up a chair and he wants to help. He wants to help measure. He wants to understand. Now, right, he's 4. He's not going to remember most of this stuff and understand the science behind it. But we try and incorporate that because, again, food is more than just fuel. It is really an enjoyment, and we want the kids to understand that it is an enjoyment, and it is something that they can do, they can have fun with, and they can make really good tasting meals that are great for their body and have fun doing it.
I think the tasting part is what most people forget about. You know, like I want my kids to eat not to pick on broccoli, but I want my kids to eat broccoli. So they go to the store, they buy some frozen broccoli, they throw it in the microwave, they put it on the table, and no one wants to eat it. 'Cause it tastes like shit. Like, who wants to eat microwave frozen broccoli? Right? Like, you forget the fact that you have to make it a little fun and spice it up. I remember when I was at Target working downtown in the cafeteria, there was the huge salad bar, right? Like, everyone eats salads downtown. It's stereotyping, but it's the thing. And in the salad bar, the biggest item that they cooked, like the biggest thing that people would add to their salads, was roasted broccoli. Because it wasn't just shit broccoli in a bag that was steamed and thrown out there. It wasn't raw broccoli. Raw broccoli is gross too by itself. It was roasted, salty, yummy, nutty, flavorful broccoli, which sounds so stupid and basic, but I'm not kidding you, man. It was like the biggest item that they prepared in the entire kitchen.
Sounds like you just came up with a new electrolyte beverage or electrolyte food, salty broccoli.
Salty broccoli.
We just saved you a lot of money if you're listening. Salty broccoli, #electrolytes.
Yeah, right. So my wife also worked at Target, right? And they did this thing. I think it was Christmas time. You could win. I don't know if it was like if it was a drawing. Somehow, some way, she was part of a group that went into the kitchen, and it was like this how to cook class with the chefs that did the cafeteria at Target. And the number one thing that they showed everyone was how to make this roasted broccoli. And my wife's like, "Oh my God, I get to finally learn how to make this broccoli." And the chef showed them, and she's like, "This is the easiest thing in the world. Why have we never done this before?"
How do you do it?
You literally put it on a sheet pan, pour some olive oil and salt on it, and roast the damn thing. That's literally all it is.
I laugh because literally, we've been making broccoli like that for a long time, right? It's so simple. Like a lot of these things are so damn simple, and we overcomplicate them. I also think I'm curious, right? Your family sounds like you guys like to cook. You guys like to spend some time in the kitchen. What is it in the kitchen that brings you joy? Like what is it about being there? Why do you do it? You could go out, you could do DoorDash, you could do Grubhub, you could do all these different services. You get your meals. Why cook at home?
Well, don't get me wrong, man. We do all the other things too, because raising kids is a pain in the ass sometimes, and we're just tired and we need something. But my wife and I, when we got married, it was one of the things we used to do every Friday night. We would get together and cook. We'd make something. We loved making pasta from scratch. We loved making pizza from scratch. Like, we used to make a bunch of really fun meals. First time I had her over when we were still dating, I have a Bobby Flay cookbook, and I found a recipe, flank steak and avocado, stuff I like, and I made it, and I totally sucked. But, she appreciated the effort. It's something that we've always done. So I think with the kids, the thing that we like about it most is you control what you're making. And it is super important to us. It's got to be flavorful. No one's going to eat shit if it doesn't taste good. But second of all, it is a priority for us to give our kids healthy stuff. We want our kids to know how to eat good foods. We want our kids to know how to make good food. We want to instill that knowledge in them. So when they're 18 and they go to college, it's not just ramen noodles and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
So you brought up something kind of interesting, excuse me, that I think about a lot with kids and food, right? People throw stuff on there, like just raw fruits, raw veggies on the plate. They're like, "Eat it, kid, it's good for you." But a guy that I think you knew from Super Value and a family friend of ours, a friend of mine from high school, his dad, we were talking about this one time, and he goes, well, it's like you look at a salad back in the day when McDonald's had them. It was like 700 calories for McDonald's salad
shakers. Do you remember those?
Vaguely.
They had the chicken Caesar salad shaker thing.
Yes.
I forgot about those.
But it was fascinating because he's like, people want to, like, they want to criticize everybody else. And they're like, oh, well, there's so much fat and there's so many calories in the salad. And he goes, okay, let's take the same fat and calories from a burger, same fat and calories in the salad, and let's compare the micronutrients. I mean, this is like 2004 he was talking about this, like way ahead of the time. And he goes, yeah, you might have the same amount of calories, but you're actually getting nutrients over here where you're not getting them over here. And I think it's really funny. So you look at it like with kids, like why people are like, oh, well, we're not gonna put olive oil on there or salt or this. Well, because it's not bad.
Who says we're not going to use olive oil or salt?
There are so many people out there like, give your kids raw fruits and veggies. And you know what I say to those kids? Like, good luck with your kids binge eating Twinkies and McDonald's when they're 18 and they leave you.
Hold on. We give our kids lots of raw veggies and fruits.
Obviously raw fruit, right? Who really cooks fruit? But on
lots
the veggie,
of raw veggies.
Yes, raw veggies. But like, if you really want your kids to get into vegetables, a lot of them are better with a little cook, a little char, a little broil. Like, right? You said it, raw broccoli. What kid's going to go eat raw broccoli? You have to cook it. You have to make them taste good. You have to do something to make these vegetables taste good if you want your kids to touch them.
I agree 100%. And the reason I wanted to do this episode and talk about this is because I think this is where so many people trip up. First of all, we put shit on our kids that we don't even realize we're doing it. I don't like broccoli, so I'm not going to have my kids eat broccoli. My dad hates peas.
Holy shit, is your dad my dad? Are we related?
Absolutely hates peas. Still to this day, he won't eat them at all. I like peas, but I never had them growing up, ever, right? Because he hated them, right? So how many of us as parents are not giving our kids the stuff that we hated growing up, that we don't eat now, because we think they don't like it? I hate onions. Hate them. Will not eat them at all. I give my kids onions. I have them try them because everybody else in the world likes onions.
You don't eat onions?
I hate onions.
No shit. I swear to God, like every meal, I swear you had onions. Like every time we order a meal.
Are you being funny?
You order some really healthy stuff. I just assume there are onions all over it.
Oh, no. God, no.
No shit.
Never. And I don't cook with them, but my wife does. And so this is my point. Just because I don't like something doesn't mean that I'm going to stop the kids from trying it. I don't really particularly like raw veggies, if I'm being honest. My kids will absolutely crush peppers. They have to be orange peppers, right? They will crush carrots. They love cucumbers. I don't like really any of that. But ever since they were little kids, we've been giving it to them. And they try it. And if they don't like it, I don't force it on them. But we find the things they like and we give them more of that.
Bingo. We never like our middle son is CC, carb crusher. I mean, anything carbohydrate, kid will consume. He lives on carbs, which is completely normal for a young child to be a very picky eater because a lot of it actually boils down to the texture more than the flavor.
Yes.
And so every single meal, and my wife got this from someone who got it from someone who got it from someone. I have no idea. But every meal we put, like, he doesn't want to eat fruit. He doesn't want to eat veggies. But we put one piece on his plate. If he touches it, he touches it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And case in point, like a week ago, our youngest, who's 1.5, who's kind of hitting that I'm going to be a little prick to you stage with food, like would not touch the pasta, like would not touch pasta sauce, would not. And we were really impressed because he took a noodle and swirled it in the pasta sauce and then licked it and then put it back down. Like, that is a huge win.
Yeah, at least
like,
you tried it.
Bingo. Like now he's exposing himself to that type of stuff. So, it's I don't know. It's so funny to me how we just need to expose our kids to things. But I'll tell you one funny story about my middle son. So we're driving. My wife and daughter are gone. It's my youngest and my middle son. And my middle son goes, Dad. I go, yeah. He goes, I do not like vegetables. They are disgusting. I'm like, okay, dude, that's cool. And he goes, and I do not like fruit. Fruit is not good either, Dad. I go, okay, buddy, like, sure. Like, and he's like me. He just doesn't shut up. And so he just keeps chirping. He's like, I do not want to eat them. I will never eat them. I will just eat my macaroni and cheese. And I'm like, cool, dude. Like, I get it. You want macaroni and cheese. Like, and all of a sudden he stops and goes, but Dad, your smoothies are actually really good. And I will drink them because they are good. And I was like, I almost drove off the road. I'm like, are you fucking with me, kid? Like, are you just messing with me right now? And like, I'm going to say this as an advertisement for Switchback. I'm simply saying, like, it is funny how, again, make a smoothie for your kids. Make something.
Find the thing that they like.
Try different things. So here's a funny one for you. I think I sent you this picture. What did I do with Rice Krispie bars like a month ago?
Strawberry ones?
Yeah. I have a bunch of powder, strawberry powder. And so I put what's equivalent. I was probably like, it's probably like putting like 30 strawberries in there. I took the strawberry powder and I put it in the butter and marshmallow mixture and had strawberry Rice Krispie bars. Okay, like, is it revolutionary? No. But it was really easy to do. The kids all enjoyed them. And like, they're getting something that actually might have a couple of nutrients. Like, it's small, but it's better than nothing. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing. Some is better than none. Right? I mean, what are your theories on that? Like, do you try and make sure your kids get the 100% daily value requirement, whatever? Or do you just like, let's just try our best?
Well, dude, first of all, I think the daily requirement's a bunch of bullshit, and it's not even real daily requirements because everyone's so different and nobody is, whatever, tangent. So, no.
We could talk about that for days.
I don't follow that shit. I do, but I don't really. Like, our goal is you got to eat a fruit, you got to eat a vegetable, you got to eat some sort of protein, and you got to have some sort of carb. Why? Well, because your body runs on carbs. If you're a low carb, no carb person, you want to tell me I'm an idiot for eating carbs, I don't want to hear it. You run on carbs. I'm not going to make my kids keto because that's just fucking stupid and it would never work, right? So you got to have carbs. You got to have protein. You do. They're building their bodies. Protein equals muscles and building. And then other than that, fruits and vegetables have shit that we know that they need.
On a funny side note, I was at a conference one time for my old job, and some lady, we were talking about sugar, and like people love to demonize it. And I was like, yeah, did you know that you can't eat strawberries? I was like, I don't know, shit. Like, because they're, well, what? Like, a strawberry is bad for you? It's like, do you know how much sugar's in there? They add sugar to strawberries. I'm like, okay,
no, only
you
my
are
mother-in-law
fucking
adds
nuts.
Sugar to strawberries.
Oh, dude, I was like, you like, and she's literally like, and people are like, oh yeah, strawberries are so bad, they're so high in sugar. I'm like, oh, we got to talk about it. But you're spot on.
Which, by the way, I went to my in-laws one day when my kids were little, and they were eating strawberries. And I'm not shitting you. My mother-in-law puts sugar on strawberries.
Dude, who hasn't done that?
I know, but like we were talking about this the other day. Kids' palates are they're so susceptible to being manipulated really easily, right? There is sugar in strawberries already. Why would you add more sugar to something that already has sugar and make the kids crave more sugar when they already have sugar in everything?
Yeah, my good friend of mine.
I was like, please don't ever do that again. They love strawberries as is. We don't need to make them sugary. We don't need to do that. They already like them. Just let them eat the plain things.
I think of a buddy of mine, Alec, and Alec has a saying he uses, and I love it. He goes, I might butcher this, but it was like, I think of fruit as God's dessert. And so I'm like, it's brilliant. Like, he's like, God created fruit so that we have dessert. And it's like, look at it. Like, if you want a really badass dessert that's really good, take some berries, cut them up, throw them in a bowl, throw a little bit of whipped cream on there and eat it. Like, it's delicious. My kids will crush the shit out of that. Although maybe Cece will probably only eat the whipped cream now, but I should probably try that again. Because, like, dude, that dude just loves. And like, that's where a lot of stuff comes from. So, like, kind of back to it, right? It's exposure to foods, putting little tiny amounts on their plates. That's one that we do. What's something you guys do in your family to do that?
Well, yes, the exposure part it's huge. It's find the things that the kids like, right? They both will eat chicken. Well, okay, what can we do with chicken that's a little different? They love burgers, love them. Like, dude, if they could have a cheeseburger every single day, they would. Okay, well, let's do ground turkey one day. Right, so we take things that are familiar that they already know, and we'll try to do different proteins and different things with them. They love pasta. Great. Well, pasta sauce has a lot of tomatoes, and add a little more veggies to it. Like, I'm cool with them eating pasta. Now, our kids are super active too, so I'm not worried about carbs. I'm not worried about sugar and carbs and all that sort of stuff because, again, they need that energy. They need stuff in their bodies to go do the things that they're going to do anyways. We get them exposed to things, and if they like it, we do more of that and less of the things that they hate.
You brought up a really good point there with kids' nutrition.
Simple. You don't have to make it complicated.
But think about it. We are, I mean, not you, not me necessarily, we tend to be sedentary. We as adults tend to be very sedentary. We go to the gym for 20, 30 minutes and we're like, yeah, we just earned that quadruple cheeseburger.
Yeah.
When in reality, you didn't, because you're not doing anything the rest of the day. Now, if you're going to the gym and you're walking 12 miles throughout the day, like, yeah, you probably earned some extra calories. But it's really interesting. Like, we look at kids in the same way, nutrition-wise, that we look at adults.
Yes. That's why I hate the whole daily requirement nutrition thing.
Well, I can't remember if I said this in the last podcast, Matt, but I'm a product of the 90s. My parents were awesome. They, nutrition, food was not something that was highly studied at that point. We lived on Mountain Dew and Hostess snacks and Little Debbie's and chips and frozen pizza from Red Baron. I mean, like, that was my childhood. Like, we ate so much of that, but we were never like morbid. At some point, yeah, I was probably overweight, but I grew like 9 inches in a year or something crazy. But for the most part, we never had excess weight. Why? Because we were active.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about it. How many times, Matt, did you played sports, growing up? How many times did you get home from sports and go inside and just sit down and play a video game or sit on your phone, your iPad, your iPhone, and just bury yourself for the next 3 hours?
Well, those didn't exist, so it was Nintendo.
Trick question.
And I loved Nintendo. So yeah, I did play a lot of video games growing up, but it'd be a half hour maybe at most, and it was after 3 hours of soccer or hockey or baseball or who knows what.
But my guess though is that you love those video games. But correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. You probably were playing in the neighborhood after you got home from those sports as a kid, right? Like we were active. I look at it and say, I've got no justification, no validation, no anything. But these kids, like, oh, my son plays an hour of this sport 3 times a week. That's cool, but like, they're not active. They play 1 hour of sport. They go home. They sit on their iPad, their iPhone. They sit in front of the TV. They're playing video games. Like when we were kids, and I'm not saying all kids are this way, by no stretch, but I think there are a lot of kids. They get their sports done. They go home, video games. Whereas when we were kids, it was like, we got home and my mom was like, get the fuck out of this house. And I mean, literally, we had a bell in the front of the house and you could hear it from pretty far away.
Yeah.
And that was a dinner bell. Like, you were not allowed back in the house until you heard that bell, right? You had to be outside doing stuff. Dude, we put so many miles on our bikes and rollerblades, shoes, you name it. Like, we were all over the place.
Well, I know we're talking about how to get kids to eat better, but this it ties into it's similar, right? Like, you got to teach your kids the importance of these things as kids and get them used to it. It blows my mind. I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. It blows my mind how much obesity there is in children today. And yes, of course it has to do with what we feed them, but it also has to do with what you're just talking about. We as parents, it is our obligation to make sure that these kids, when they're 18 and leave the house, that they're ready for life. Are they active? Are they taking care of themselves? Do they understand health and nutrition? Do they understand how to talk to people? Do they have skills? Like, you really need to sit down and ask yourself these questions. Am I setting my kids up or not? Like, really think about it, because the food thing to me is the easiest place to start. Get them some good food. Teach them how to eat. Teach them the importance of this stuff. And yes, it takes work. It's not simple. They're not going to learn it in school. They're not going to learn it from watching YouTube and TV. They're going to learn it from you.
And if you're really curious in this, I think one of the things that you talked about, the daily requirements are BS. Do what's in the best interest of your kids. Be an advocate for your kids. Fight for your kids. Get them the food that you think they need. Because one of the things that shocked me when I was a part of an organization that's enormous, I remember they were talking like, in the next year, the USDA is going to update their food pyramid, and we need people from our organization on the board, otherwise they're going to reduce our servings. And I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah, what if your servings need to be reduced?
Literally. And so the food pyramid is bullshit for the most part. And a lot of the stuff that we're told, and a lot of these things are predicated by the big giant companies that all have a vested interest in saying, like, you need to eat 16 servings of whole grains today, otherwise you're going to die. Like, you probably don't, but that's my point. It's like, don't just buy into the influencers and what, even what the government. do what's in your best interest of your kids. Like if you grew up eating X, Y, and Z and you're perfectly healthy and you're great, like then great. Maybe you do that for your kids. The other piece is like, don't forget genetics have a big piece of it. And so it was kind of a little tangent, but I go back to like, man, expose your kids to different foods. Get them trying them. Try different things. Make it fun. And I think the other big piece, Matt, is just like, don't talk with your little kids about things like weight gain, obesity, like that type of stuff. Like,
why not?
I think a lot of the science now, like when we talk about what a healthy food is, more and more of the science that's starting to come in and the research, the more we talk with kids about what is a healthy food, the more we demonize a whole food group, and we're creating more eating disorders. Yeah, it may not be obesity, but it's the exact opposite, which is just as bad for the body, just as bad for everybody, is anorexic, eating disorders, body dysmorphia. A lot of these things have become way more prevalent in the last
how
7 years.
How does teaching your kids about healthy food lead to anorexia, bulimic? Like I don't see the correlation there.
So again, I don't have any research in front of me, but based off what I've seen, what I've read is
no. Just like talk through it conceptually, because I know we've talked about this before. I don't understand how, if I'm teaching my kids, like, hey, this type of food is good for you. Eat whatever you want here. This type of food is not great to eat a ton of. So don't eat a ton of this.
So there's a big difference between this food is good for you and this food isn't great. So like, maybe limit how much you. It's more when you get into the demonization, you start saying like, you have to have this, you have to have this, and you can't have this. It's those definitives where what ends up happening, at least from what I've been able to see, and again, I'm not a doctor, and from the research is,
thank God you're not a doctor, because they don't talk about nutrition anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'd be a bad doctor. Really, one of the things when it comes to kids and this stuff is, the more that we tell kids this food is a bad food, this food is a bad, like you can't eat that food, or like that food, they're impressionable. They're young. They're like, oh, I can't have that food. And it becomes a definitive. Like, I'm not going to have the food. So they're like, oh, well, I want to be healthy. I can only eat this one type of food, or only eat this food category. And they start looking at people who have excess weight. They start looking at guys and go, oh, you're fat. And they're like, oh, shit. Well, I don't want to look like him, so I'm going to dial back my food.
I don't know how that gets tied together.
So
I kind of get where you're going, but we're not, like, we never said we're telling them that people are fat because they eat it. This is a complex topic, but
it's super complex and probably too deep for us. But I'll give you one more thing, Matt. A friend of the family, and I think an 11-year-old son, 12-year-old son, they had a foreign exchange student. Foreign exchange student was here. Foreign exchange student was laser focused on health and nutrition.
Where are they from? Do you know?
I believe Germany, but it was like, I can't eat that because it has fat in it. I can't eat that because it has fat in it. So this young kid sees this older guy, and is like, well, I can't eat that because it has fat in it. Go forward 3 months, they have to put this 12-year-old kid in a 2-week inpatient treatment facility for eating disorders, because he was literally starving himself to death because he thought what this other guy was doing was okay for him to do and was good, and that's how he was going to look good and be healthy and all this stuff. It's broader than just the food. It's the whole mental aspect around it. It's no different than like you get an eating disorder, someone that's anorexic, they often become obese. The same thing, obese, if they will oftentimes go anorexic. It's a fine balance, and I think the big thing is like, you will never hear me say food is bad. Like, all food is good food. It's just how much food are you actually going to consume of it and why.
See, this is where I can't be more passionate about the role of parents in teaching and educating here. I'm not saying demonize. I'm not saying make kids feel bad. But you have to be able to explain to your kids how this stuff works. You have to be able to explain that fat is not bad. It is a vital thing that your body has to have. It's not.
Yes.
Right? But on the flip side, I don't see any problem with telling my kids that we don't drink soda in our house because it's just fucking not good for you. It just isn't. There's no need to have soda.
So the funny part is, like, we have soda, but my daughter and I, every Friday night at dinner, we split a Jarritos soda. She gets 4 ounces. I get 4 ounces, or 6 ounces. She gets 6 ounces. And it's like a treat. So like and I agree with you. There's nothing healthy that comes out of that soda, but it's a treat for us. And so like that's, again, doesn't make you wrong, doesn't make me wrong. That is one of the things that we say, like, hey, we enjoy having a 50, splitting a Doritos once a week. And I think it's a big thing, right? It's like my daughter knows that. She asked for like, can we have a soda on Monday night? I'm like, honey, like it's not Friday night. It is a special thing for us. And that's what we do. But similarly, we also in our family, like we don't hold dessert. So this is an interesting thing. Again, really focused on the kids. When you look at kids, we grew up, I don't recall ever not having a treat night. I think every night you could have a cookie after dinner, but you had a cookie. You didn't have 9. So my kids, they always ask us a treat night. And you know what? I feel guilty for ever having started that. Like, oh, tonight's not a treat night. No, every night's a treat night. You can have a treat after dinner. And by the way, if you don't eat your dinner, you still get a treat, because tying one to the other is a really bad idea. And I think registered dietitians will all attest to that. Like, it's not really good to say, like, if you don't eat your meal, you can't eat it, because now you're creating a reward, which you don't want to do. So like my kids get a treat every night, a cookie, whatever it is. But we were talking about this. I think you and I were talking about this. If my kids don't eat their dinner, which often happens to my son, he will just eat the cookie after dinner. At about 6:45, he goes, I'm so hungry. My brain's going like, dude, you dumb little, like you should have eaten your dinner. I don't say that to him, but that's what my brain's thinking. And he's like, oh, I want to go. I want this. I'm like, no. So our rule is this in our family. You don't eat your dinner. You get 3 things if you're hungry at 6:45. You get, number 1, you get a fruit. Number 2, you can have vegetables. Number 3, you can have a smoothie. You get one of those 3 things. Nothing else. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, he'll choose a smoothie at 6:45 and be happy as a clam. And I always laugh. I'm like, joke's on you, little man. You got more nutrients from that than you did from the hamburger we had with dinner. But that's another thing that I think we just need to get over, is like, hold true to it. One other fascinating thing I don't know how much.
Can we stay on this topic a little bit?
Yeah.
Because I want to argue with you a lot, and I'm trying not to, because
argue.
Your mentality is the same as my wife's. Here's what I don't understand. Like, this is what I struggle with, if I'm being completely honest. The only thing my kids ask for every single day without fail is, can I have a treat today? It is the only thing they ever ask for. And it is all they want. All the damn time. It drives me nuts. And in my head, I'm thinking, guys, no, like it's not, the treat is not what you want. Like, I don't want you to get stuck on wanting a treat all the time and always thinking about that when you're 18 or 20, like I was in college, and you can do whatever the hell you want to, and all you want is treats. That worries me. That is the reason why I'm way more, no, you can't have a treat. You have to eat, like, you have to have the food before you get this other shit. My wife, they can have a treat. They can have 2 treats every day. It's totally fine. She's way more like you guys. I'm worried. In my head, I'm like, well, I've got to be teaching them that this shit is not what you have when you get older, because I know what I did. I know how I lived when I was in college, and I ate like absolute trash. Absolute trash. So I struggle with this one.
So let me flip it back to you. What if they didn't ask you for a treat because they knew that they got a treat and they weren't fixated on the treat? They just knew, I get a treat after dinner, so now I'm not going to be fixated on that. Do you think mentally it's going to shift the mindset over time?
I don't know, because they already want it. Whether they ask for it or not, they'll go find it.
Because it's like why so many of these diet programs fail, right? You tie a treat, you make a reward for this behavior, and it doesn't normally end well for most people. It's why most diets don't actually end up working, because when you start limiting a food group, cutting out an entire food group, then you just binge eat it when you have it. So I would encourage you to try, like, hey, you guys can have a treat. We're new policy in our family. You get 1 treat every night. You get to pick the treat. Like we had oversight. And so I look at it this way too. And this is our family's perspective. What are they really having? Like, it's not like they're having like a king size Snickers bar. They're having 100 calories, maybe 120 calories of some sort of treat. And that's it. And if that's going to kill them and that's going to lead to obesity, like, we got bigger problems in this world. Because I think a lot about, like, my diet in college. it probably would have been fine. In fact, it was. I mean, my freshman year of college, I don't think I gained any weight. And I ate like crazy, but I was also rock climbing with a buddy probably 12 to 14 hours a week, right? So I was getting intense physical exercise. And I think it's a piece of it, like, we want to divert back to the food is bad, but is there something worse than the food? Like, the food itself isn't going to kill us, but
what if, though? What if you just don't even have treats in the house to begin with?
Then you're most likely, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I do believe there's a fair amount of research out there to show that those are the type of kids that when they understand they have free will and they get out of the house, they're going to binge eat the shit out of those things. And it's going to become a serious problem for them. Again, I'm fairly certain there's a fair amount of evidence to show that.
I don't know. Like, I think with us as adults, you already said diets don't work. It's really hard to make changes when you're staring at the opportunity to do it. So, like, if I'm trying to eat better, this is just me. I have to get rid of the shit that I just don't want to be in my diet, or I'm going to eat it. Treats, as an example. I have a huge sweet tooth. I'd eat them every day. If they're not in the house, I don't think about them. If it's not even an option, like, it doesn't cross my mind. Like, I think about kids that grow up in households that, and you'll probably know more about this than I do, but where they don't see their parents drinking and they don't see parties and there's no alcohol there and they just never really, like, they don't think of alcohol as a thing that they consume, right? Like, my wife's family, my in-laws, most of them don't drink at all. The kids don't drink, no issues. Like, they don't, it's not part of their routine. That was never introduced. It's not something that they saw. Is there some correlation there with food and how you raise your family? Creating just the normal. Like, again, going back to the treat thing, I don't want the normal default to be, oh, I get to have this thing today. And I know I'm getting fixated on this, but I think about this one a lot.
You know, I think there's a lot to unpack there, because what I hear you saying too is like, and this is, I'm not going to say it that way. What I hear myself, what I default to when my kids want treats is, I don't want you guys to get overweight, because I don't want you to have the same things that dad struggled with. I don't want you to be made fun of. And so I think a lot of this is more.
I don't think, guys, I don't mean that.
No, I'm saying this. That's me.
I thought you.
No. When you're talking about that, like, that's where my mind goes to. Is like, that's why, like, I have a reluctance with treats at times when in the reality it's not gonna kill them. And so, like, that's typically where my mind goes, because I was chubby for like a year because I was really short, and then I grew, and then, you know, whatever. Like, shit happens. But I think the more I think about the treat thing, I like the fact that you can have a treat. Generations of Americans have had a treat every night. They didn't get fat. They didn't get overweight.
America is the fattest it's ever been. I'm not saying causation. It's just that's my argument back to my wife is like, yeah, I get it. Like, we all grew up that way, and the majority of people in America right now eat like shit. And
again, I think no scientific evidence, not a doctor. I think calorie in versus calorie out. A huge piece of it is how much physical exercise are you actually getting?
But again, everyone says nutrition is 90% of anything. So I know that physical activity is a huge part of it, but
so here's a funny one. If there's a doctor listening to this or someone that knows metabolism really well, please call me, because I've got a question about this. When I was training to climb Mount Rainier, it was very, very strict, and I noticed my appetite was definitely stronger. After climbing Mount Rainier, for like 2 weeks after climbing Mount Rainier, I literally could not get enough food in my body. My wife, we went out to dinner one night, and I think I had like 4 meals, and it wasn't like I was I was just so freaking
me after marathon
hungry. And so there has something to do with your metabolism, right? And so if we want your metabolism, if you want that, don't you have to work out? Don't you have to be physically active? Otherwise, your body's just going to store calories anyway. So it is a big piece to be physically active. I think, yes, calorie in, calorie out, I get that. But I also think you need to be physically active because your body is going to have to burn calories. So if you don't do anything, if you walk 1,000 steps a day, then you need to severely cut back all of your calories, no matter what it is, whether it be fruits, vegetables, doesn't matter. And then if you're going to,
if you care about body composition, you have to. Otherwise, like, if you don't care what you look like, you don't care what your body's like, you don't care about health and wellness, then you don't have to. Then who gives a shit? Just eat whatever you want.
isn't that the whole point of this, though? Is that we care about?
I think so.
Being healthy?
I think so.
Because as Jared, our RD, said, like, what was it? What is he? I'm going to butcher this, Jared. If you have someone that's 5'10", 200 pounds, and they have a BMI, or they have a, like, God, I forget how he phrased it, but it was essentially akin to, like, people with an immense amount of muscle with a high BMI but low body fat aren't actually as healthy as everybody, as science would show. Like, you are actually designed to be pretty, like, you want a BMI, I think he said like 10%, 10%, and then you want a bunch of lean muscle, but you don't want to be bulked up, because being, jacked like Arnold is just as bad for your body as being overweight, because it's putting more stress on everything. Jared could explain it better. We should interview him. It's pretty fascinating. But no, I mean, it is funny. I didn't realize your perspective with your kids was so much different than ours when it comes to treats. I mean, it's Friday night. We'll go out. We're gonna go out to dinner with my parents, and we'll get home. And on the way home, the kids are like, "Hey, can we have a treat?" Like, yeah, whatever. Like, I have a treat. I mean, like, we're active. We have fun. We're outside. We're playing. Like, I'm not as worried about that as I am about some of the other stuff. I'm more worried about, as they get older, alcohol, drugs, tobacco, the shit that.
Which, again, like, I am too. Way more worried about that stuff. But if you can't talk to your kids about food, and you can't help them understand, I'm not saying you, I'm saying in general, right? If you can't have these conversations and be able to explain how food works, why it's important, why you shouldn't have this or that or whatever, then how the hell are you going to ever talk about alcohol or drugs or any of the other things that are really important, right? And before you answer that, I think just one last point on this, and then I'll shut up and I'll never bring this up again. Not true. But
that's a lie.
Think of the book Atomic Habits. What is one of the biggest takeaways of Atomic Habits and how to create change?
I think habit stacking.
Habit stacking, or the 1% better every day. You just do one thing better every day, right? I think of that in terms of what we're teaching our kids when we eat. And to me, this one extra, oh, sure, you can have one extra treat. That's 100 extra calories, just for round numbers, every single day. That's 700 extra calories a week. That's 3,000 extra calories a month. Is it going to kill them? No, but do they need it? Not really. And is that the habit that you want them to learn long term? So when they are 40 like us, me, not you, right? That extra 100 calories, that shit really starts to add up over time. So in the weeds, probably overthinking it, but like, I don't want my 6-year-old thinking every single day I do this thing that I know is super addictive. I know she's going to want it all the time. And that shit compounds over time. And we don't think about it through that lens.
I don't disagree. I think I don't think that's as big of an issue. Maybe that is the issue that leads to, like, I mean, I laugh and be like, oh, I have one whiskey every day or one beer every night. Like, and I think about, like,
yeah, that one beer a night is 7 beers a week, and technically speaking, that's
1,400 calories a week.
And there's now science to prove that 7 drinks a week is really bad for your body, no matter how. We're going on a tangent.
No. But so the point is there, though, is like you have a valid point, and I think we should interview. I think we should go find some people and talk to them and get perspective on that.
No, I want your perspective, Mr. Listener.
Yeah, exactly.
Where do you guys stand on this? I think we can certainly interview people and experts, but
because I mean, Matt, again, like, I'm not going to deviate. Like, I think, like, I just think a treat, it brings enjoyment. Enjoy life. My kids aren't. I don't think they're looking at it as like this is the end all be all, but like it's a tough decision. The other thing is I don't know. I will say this. I think we overthink a lot of this shit. I think like we don't have to think to survive. We don't have to struggle to survive. And I mean that as like Americans, right? The vast majority of Americans, like, life is pretty damn good. Even if you were in the low income bracket, you still have it better than 99.9% of the world. And we just want to bitch about everything and complain about everything and find reasons to complain about stuff or reasons to want to change. When like I respect the hell out of you that you're like, no, today's not a treat day. You respect me, like that's dope, and we just live our lives, and my kids are gonna get treats. And 30 years from now, if my daughter or my sons are binge eating, a box of Twinkies every night, we got a problem. But hopefully they continue to learn like the moderation, and it's okay. And just, take care of yourself.
There we go. Cool, man. I appreciate having this discussion, and like we kicked this episode off with that we want to be a little different in the show moving forward and have real discussions and talk about real shit. Like this to me, the last 20 minutes was exactly that. And that's part of the thing that I think everybody needs to figure out is we obviously are in very different spectrums here, but like there's things you said that I am absolutely going to take away from today and be like, okay, I got a new perspective. It's something to think about. Maybe it changes my mind. Maybe it doesn't, but like let's talk through these things. Like this is the way to do it.
One final thing, and I think her Instagram is Hello Food Explorers or Hello Kid Food Explorer, something like that. Her name's Danny. We've done some work with her, and she has this amazing theory, and I love her post because it's considerate versus catering for kids. We could talk about this for days. Let's not go there. But it's all about being considerate with your kids and what they want to eat versus catering to your kids. So my final thing I'm going to say, I do not believe in making separate meals for my kids. Whatever we eat, they can eat. What's your stance? And then let's go find something else fun to do. Let's go eat some cheeseburgers and pizza for lunch.
We make separate meals. I'm totally fine with it. If
you do?
Yep. You started talking about this, and I was like, God damn it, this is going to be another 45 minutes. We absolutely do. Yep.
Really?
For sure.
Why?
Because we like to cook, because I do want my kids to eat what they want to eat. And if they want healthy, good stuff, and it's the difference of 2 pots versus 1, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, okay. You're being considerate, not catering. You're not grabbing them chicken nuggets and French fries when you guys are making chili. You guys are, they're eating.
No. We're eating the same stuff, but like 2 nights ago, we got a big pot of spaghetti sauce and noodles, and then we grilled a bunch of chicken. Elia had chicken. Easton had spaghetti and noodles. We had similar veggies. Amanda had chicken. I had spaghetti. Like we ate the same stuff, but it was 2 completely separate meals.
No, that's not what I'm talking. I'm talking
what
about.
Are you talking about?
I'm talking about. You're gonna make a like we make this really good roasted chicken with potatoes and vegetables, and it's delicious. And like Ellis doesn't eat chicken, and so there are people out there who be like, oh well, we'll make him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich to go with dinner. We're like, no, like. What we make is what we make.
Oh, but we'll do the peanut butter and jelly sandwich for Easton when we have the other stuff.
Really?
Like, I'm totally fine with that.
Dude,
that doesn't bother me.
What? I had no idea.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. We are ardently opposed to that. Like we will not make them their own meal.
What's more important to me?
Calories?
Nope. What's more important to me is that we're at the table together eating.
Yes.
Secondly, are we eating healthy stuff? Third, I don't give a shit if it's completely different. But I'm not. It's not McDonald's for one, something else for the other one. While Amanda and I eat salads, right? Like we're eating similar stuff, but I don't. If they choose something that's in the fridge that's different than what everyone else is having, I don't. That's totally fine.
Interesting. It doesn't sound like you're not like a lot. You're not like some people. You're not saying like, oh, you can't. Like whenever we make a meal, that's what's on the like. Okay, if we're doing a big salad, we'll usually do a salad with some sort of protein and give the kids the protein in like a tiny little piece of salad. They eat it. They don't. They don't.
Yeah.
But we're not like, oh, you guys don't want to eat that. Ellis, we'll give you peanut butter and jelly because we want him to know like we're making meals. And I'm kind of an asshole because I always say to my kids, I'm like when they're bitching about what we made, I'm like, you guys have no idea. Someday you're going to look back and you're going to realize that like most parents don't actually cook and most parents don't actually go through the time that it takes to make these elaborate, delicious, flavorful meals. And you're going to be like, what is canned chili, Dad? Dad, I was at my friend's house and they had canned chili. Like,
what's this Dinty Moore stuff?
what is this microwavable pasta? No, I mean, we kind of got off base here, but that was a good way to wrap it up.
I don't know if it was because now I want to keep talking about that one, but we'll table this. We'll have this discussion a different time.
That's a great podcast for the future. For talking about like
maybe we're gonna get a bunch of comments, dude. Stop talking about the fucking dinner thing. We get it.
but it's so cool. But you're right. This is my last comment I'm making.
Don't ask a question right now.
The most important thing is doing dinner with the family, having the family around the table, talking. It may be chaos, it may be nuts, but that is like I look forward to that every single day. Some of my fondest memories of a kid were the dinners with the family, sitting around the table.
Bingo.
With my brother just being an asshole to me. Okay, final. I hated onions for a long time, right? Because they're crunchy. And I never liked like really crunchy things like that. Like weren't supposed to be crunchy. I'll never forget we were having lasagna, and my brother, I love you, but he goes, I was like 8, and he goes, I can hear the onions crunch, crunch, crunch. And I had the absolute meltdown of a lifetime. He got in so much trouble. And I think it was like from that moment forward, like I've been petrified of onions. Like if I eat an onion, you slide an onion into something, I'm like Princess and the Pea. I will tell you.
If you enjoyed the show, if you're still listening, thank you. We appreciate you. Please leave a review, leave a comment. And I really generally would love to hear from listeners on this topic. Where are we way off, way wrong? Where do we get it right? Where do you guys stand on this topic? Till next time, this is Matt signing off with
Oli Hovde, who
Oli,
was looking at his awesome emails trying to catch up. So
peace.
See ya.